Hello everyone, and welcome to the Tome of Silver, the show where I randomly select a game from my collection, review it, and add it to an ever-growing ranking list. The last time we looked at the Naruto series on this channel, we took a look at the first Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm, a fun fighting game with some areas for improvement. In that video, I mentioned that the Naruto series had over 50 video games. When you have that many titles under your belt, you're going to get some winners and you're going to get some losers. The one we're looking at today, it's one of those losers. I don't have much preamble for this video, so let's not waste any time. Prepare your ninja tools, beat down some thugs, and let's turn the page to Naruto Uzumaki Chronicles for the PlayStation 2.
Naruto Uzumaki Chronicles!
Naruto Uzumaki Chronicles is an action-adventure game released exclusively for the PlayStation 2 in 2006, taking place after the Chunin exam arc of the original manga. The game opens not with a cutscene but with text, explaining that following the Chunin exams, series villain Orochimaru has been conducting attacks on the hidden Leaf Village. These constant attacks have spread the higher-ranking Leaf Ninjas thin, forcing Genin ninjas to take higher-ranking missions to help the village. Our titular hero Naruto is excited by the opportunity, eager to take on tougher missions and make a name for himself as he continues his path to become the Hokage. Much like Ultimate Ninja Storm, if you're considering using this game as a gateway to the Naruto series, don't. If you listen to my story synopsis and are asking yourself what a Genin or Hokage is, don't expect these terms to be explained at any point. The game clearly presumes that you know all the characters and concepts of the Naruto world. If you're not already a fan of Naruto with pre-existing knowledge, you will likely be helplessly confused. At least you would be if this game had anything even resembling a story. Uzumaki Chronicles doesn't really have anything that can be referred to as an overarching narrative. See, the way this game is structured is you play as Naruto, taking on various missions to help out the village. This can range from bringing a cart of supplies to a neighboring town, to fighting bandits to get a flower needed to make candy. These missions are individual stories, or it makes up the game's narrative, with barely any thread connecting said missions into a cohesive story. One moment you're escorting a prisoner back to the Leaf Village, and the next you're fighting monkeys to get a gambler their stuff back. A collection of a bunch of side stories isn't a terrible idea in and of itself. There is potential in this concept. Perhaps by having a mission where we help out a villager, it gives us the insight of what life is like for someone who isn't a ninja, something we rarely see in the show proper. Or maybe a mission teaches Naruto a lesson that helps him learn and grow into a better ninja. But we get nothing here. Instead, we bring a cart of supplies to a town, the guy says good job, and we're moving on to the next mission. This was dull. Nothing I did felt important, and half the time I wondered what the point of this mission even was. There was a mission early on where a weapon shop owner, Karin, has become depressed because of the loss of her father, and is struggling to keep her shop running. You help Karin 3 times over the course of the game, and each time you complete one of her missions and visit the shop, her dialogue becomes a bit more cheery, and we can see that we've started to help her get out of that slump.
Oh, can I help you? Oh, Naruto, can I help you?
This is good, I like that. It feels like our actions have made a real difference in this person's life. But no other mission in the game has something like that. It's just do this, congratulations, move on. The best way I can describe it is it feels like the developers took every tedious side mission from an RPG and slapped them all together with duct tape and glue, calling it a story. And I guess during the final third of the game, they realized they couldn't end the story by having Naruto saving a kitten out of a tree, so they introduced this new plot thread at the last minute, where Orochimaru is kidnapping innocent civilians and turning them into zombie warriors. This could have been the main plot. Think about it. Investigating a string of disappearances with Naruto and friends, slowly piecing together what's going on before finally confronting Orochimaru? That could be interesting enough on its own. Instead, it's crammed into the last hour of the game. You beat the crap out of Orochimaru, the day is saved, roll credits. It's dreadful, and if the actual narrative wasn't boring enough, the way the story is presented is here to assure you that things can only get worse. Cutscenes are presented with characters standing still, talking at each other, only moving when it's time to cycle through a handful of poses. The game can barely bother animating a character running or jumping half the time, preferring instead to have characters do these little teleports around the screen and calling that movement. There is the occasional CG cutscene every now and again, but these are so few and far between. About 90% of the game's cutscenes are these boring conversations with boring animations. The visuals for the game aren't too bad. The game has some decent looking environments, and I was impressed by the amount of detail on Naruto's character model. It's funny, for most any other anime game, I would say Uzumaki Chronicles' visual style is pretty generic. It goes for something more realistic, rather than stylized, which ordinarily would be pretty unremarkable. But because basically every other Naruto game either used sprite art or cel shading, it actually helps Uzumaki Chronicles stand apart as something more unique. The CG cutscenes didn't age particularly gracefully though. Characters look like ugly clay models, reminding me of something from J-Stars or Jump Force.
Seems like I was a little stronger than you this time, Sasuke.
Don't talk to me like that, you loser! Once more, it's not over yet!
Sasuke, I can't believe you joined Orochimaru! Shut up, you dweeb.
And their faces look off, especially Naruto in the main menu screen, who just looks ugh. Music was fine, not a whole lot to say there. They had a cool mixture between rock and Japanese instruments. Nothing I'll be humming or even remembering once the game is turned off, but it got the job done. Moving on to gameplay. The way the game works is you select one of a handful of available missions from the Hokage's office. Though the specifics of each mission vary, they each boil down to you needing to go to the game's overworld and travel to a particular area. Upon reaching the mission spot, or throughout a random encounter that triggers by moving, you'll be taken to a small area where you'll be required to defeat a certain amount of enemies before being able to move on. Naruto has a basic combo string you can perform by pressing square, and a strike that covers a wide area by pressing triangle. You also have a stamina bar, which you can expend to use a variety of techniques, from Naruto's Shadow Clone Jutsu, Naruto's Rasengan, Power Strike, and Substitution Jutsu. Upon defeating an enemy, they'll drop yellow orbs called Virtue, which is essentially this game's version of experience points. You could spend Virtue to upgrade Naruto's health and stamina, or buy skill chips. Skill chips can provide a variety of bonuses to Naruto, such as better defense, stronger attacks, being able to summon an extra shadow clone, etc. These skills are the main way of powering up in Uzumaki Chronicles, but it's not just enough to equip them. Instead, you are given skill plates. These plates start off as a small leaf shape, with various additional shapes and sizes being unlocked as you progress through the story. To equip a skill chip, you need to be able to fit the chip within your plate of choice. This makes equipping skill chips almost like a puzzle, needing to rotate and move chips around to be able to equip as many as you can, earning a massive bonus to all of Naruto's stats if you can completely fill the plate. Think of the attaché case from Resident Evil 4. Your mileage may vary on this. Some people may get a kick out of managing their chips and trying to get that perfect layout. Me personally, I didn't like it. I'd rather they have just made each chip be worth a certain amount of points, and you only be allowed to equip up to a certain number. When I got a new plate and I knew I'd have to spend time trying to reorganize my chips all over again to fit within the provided space, I wasn't stimulated, I was annoyed. It just felt like a waste of time. These chips mainly alter Naruto's properties. Aside from the chip which allows you to perform the Uzumaki Barrage, none of these chips give Naruto any new moves. The attacks you have at the start of the game are all you have until the credits roll, and that's a problem, as the combat of Uzumaki Chronicles quickly gets repetitive. To give you an idea of what the gameplay loop of Uzumaki Chronicles is like, let's take a look at the first few missions of the game. The first mission you have is escorting a cart of supplies from the Leaf Village to a nearby town. Traveling across the map will cause enemies to appear, who will attempt to break the cart, leaving you to make sure the cart doesn't get too damaged. For each little blip leading up to the goal, you'll need to fight a group of enemies. So you fight a bunch of enemies, reach the goal, complete the mission, and move on to the next. Here, Naruto needs to promote a weapon shop. How do we do that? By defeating enemies, of course. You walk around the map, fight a bunch of enemies, return to the shop, mission complete. What's next? Candy Maker can't make candy because a bunch of bandits have taken over the area with the ingredients. So we walk to the area, fighting enemies along the way, reach the ingredient, fight the enemies that are there, mission complete. Next mission, we need to guard another cart. We walk to the location, fight a group of enemies. Do you see the problem yet? Fighting enemies in small combat arenas is about the only thing to do in Uzumaki Chronicles, and while the combat system is solid in and of itself, you'll be completely burnt out of it well before the 6-hour runtime is up. After the first hour of gameplay, I had not only seen everything this game had to offer, but was already completely sick of it. During the final third of the game, Uzumaki Chronicles does introduce a handful of platforming sections. At first, I was just thankful for some variety, but that thankfulness was quickly turned into irritation once I realized that the platforming is absolutely abysmal. Naruto's jump is incredibly stiff, and I struggled to make practically any of the jumps I performed. I actually had to use Naruto's power strike in midair to give myself the necessary forward momentum just to jump from one side to another. I admittedly felt really clever figuring this out, but the fact I needed to completely rely on this exploit just to perform basic platforming was ridiculous. After just a few minutes, I was practically begging for the game just to return to combat, because at least there I felt like I had some semblance of control. Now the game does have a handful of additional playable characters outside of Naruto. During certain missions, you're allowed to form a team, letting you select 2 other characters to join you on a mission. These include Sasuke, Neji, Choji, Shikamaru, and upon beating the game once, Kakashi and Gaara, each character having their own moveset and jutsu. Normally this would mitigate my complaints regarding repetitiveness, as extra characters is a great way to shake things up. However, you may notice that when I switch a partner character in, they don't have a health bar, only a stamina meter. This stamina meter slowly decreases for every second the character is out, even more so if you use one of their jutsu. Once this meter runs out, you'll immediately switch back to Naruto, and will need to wait for them to recharge. You barely get to play as these alternate characters because this meter depletes so quickly, and the recharge time is usually much longer than you get to control the character. Yeah, it's nice getting to play as Neji, but I have to wonder what the point is when I can only use him for all of 15 seconds. The only character I can understand being usable for a limited time is Kakashi. For some reason they made him absurdly powerful compared to everyone else, and because they add him to your team for the final level of the game, the final few bosses become an absolute joke. Naruto attack? Kakashi attack. The icing on the stale cake that is Uzumaki Chronicles is that the version released in English is incomplete compared to its Japanese counterpart. In the year of this recording, 2023, it's easy to take for granted how we're able to experience an anime on the same day as its release in Japan. Back in the early 2000s, anime would often take much longer to be localized, leading to us English-speaking regions being much further behind in the story. As such, when Uzumaki Chronicles was released in Japan, the story had already finished the Search for Tsunade arc. Meanwhile, over here in the West, we were much further behind, having just finished the fight against Gaara. As such, multiple things were switched, if not outright removed from the Western release to avoid spoilers. Tsunade, who was in the Japanese version of Uzumaki Chronicles, is nowhere to be seen. The encounter with Akatsuki members Itachi and Kisame was entirely removed, being replaced with a boss fight with Gaara, a decision that makes no sense, as by all accounts Gaara would have already been reformed by this point in the Naruto timeline. The removal of these characters also caused certain cutscenes to be taken out of the game entirely, even though glimpses of these removed scenes can still be seen in the intro cinematic. Because some cutscenes were removed, some missions that originally ended featuring Tsunade were changed to just be a wall of text, making each mission's already lackluster story feel even more anticlimactic. Characters like Shikamaru and Gaara had their designs altered to their earlier designs, which is also why Naruto's Rasengan is called Power Strike, because Naruto didn't have that technique yet in the dub. Some boss fights and levels were removed without replacement, just why did you even bother, guys? The game already feels rushed out the door as is. With so many changes which ultimately weaken the experience, the English release of Uzumaki Chronicles is an inferior version of an already mediocre game. And there are a bunch of other little things that I haven't talked about. Why are roughly half the missions escort missions? Why are the camera controls inverted with no way of changing them? Why do I only get 3 seconds after finishing a combat encounter to pick up Virtue? Virtue that can, by the way, fall off cliffs. I need those to level up, why is it so tedious to get them? God, and the most infuriating thing is that if you die in the middle of a level, you'll be forced back to your last save point, which can only be done before setting out on a mission, outside of a rare save point in the last handful of stages. So if you lose all your life, you'll have to start that chore of a level over again, possibly multiple levels if you haven't saved in a while. If I didn't need to complete the game for the sake of this video, then I would have dropped it after just an hour or two. What a waste of time. Naruto Uzumaki Chronicles, simply put, is not fun. The story is practically non-existent, the combat is fine for the first few minutes until you realize that's all there is, and so much was removed from the English release that you're just playing an incomplete product. The game isn't broken, nor is it incompetently made, but everything is so painfully boring that I cannot recommend this game to anyone, not even the most hardcore Naruto fanatics. Naruto Uzumaki Chronicles will take the number 32 spot at the very bottom of the ranking. Ultimate Ninja Storm, this game is not. And that's it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed watching it more than I did recording for it. I own plenty of bad games, and not everything I select will be gold. I was prepared for that. That said, I'm feeling much more hopeful for the next video, as we'll be having another look at the Pokemon series. Last time we touched Pokemon, it was for a spin-off game, so how about we take a look at one of the mainline entries, huh? Please look forward to that. In the meanwhile, thank you all so much for watching. Take care, and may we see each other again when we turn to the next chapter in the Tome of Silver.